Welcome to Potential Props, Inc. Here you will find props made from redesigned and modified found objects, which may have unique shapes and characteristics. Many times, the found item can be used as the catalyst to create one-of-a-kind devices, using inventive ideas, novel approaches, and creative thinking. This website will cover most of my builds using my ink technique. Welcome to another video from Potential Props. Currently I'm working on two items at the same time, and this one I'm pretty well completed. The one thing I did add that was different from what you may have seen before was that the keypad was either going to go in this location or here. Since it's simulated, it's non-functioning, but I wanted to appear that it was a touch style pad, I was going to put the plate over here, but I needed to hide the battery that was sitting right here. So I ended up putting the plate on this side, and we'll end up maybe doing some kind of a decal, maybe a logo right here, something like that. So anyway, the areas here and here need to be kept super low, because when this does close, it will enter in, you know, this portion sticks out enough that it'll actually approach the front end a little too much, and there won't be much room for anything to be placed here. So it'll probably be maybe like a paper decal or something to that effect. So as you saw before, this is functional in that this is adjustable for some type of maybe, you know, sensitivity adjust or something like that. And again, the simulated keypad. We have the aluminum, brushed aluminum here, and of course the antenna, and the earphone jack right here for listening in on conversations or something. So anyway, that's that. I just wanted to touch bases on that. The one I'm working on more is this one. Now this particular item, as you saw before, has a piece that moves up and down, which I'm still working on that, and in order for that to move in and out or up and down, I wanted to add a motor. Okay, so that particular addition has been done. It's in there. It works great. The one thing I needed to do is when the motor moves from top to bottom, it needed micro switches so that the motor doesn't continue to run as long as it's in the up or down. It needs to be shut off either at the top or the bottom. So I'm still working on where to put those little tiny switches, but in the meantime I also needed to activate the prop. I needed to be able to turn it on and off when you pick it up and you use it as a prop, some kind of scanning device. So I wanted to keep the original location of the button here. This was the button that was used to remove the top. Well, since that doesn't need to happen anymore, and in fact it will be glued on permanently when all is said and done, or it'll be semi-permanent, so I can maybe have a screw, something so that I could actually remove it for any kind of repair or anything like that. So in order to keep the button here, as you see here, it's been removed, and what I needed was for something to be added in this location so that it actually lines up with where the button is on the internal part. So when this slides in here like that, this portion literally lines up. So what I needed to do is something right here so that it doesn't interfere with the rest of the function of this part. So what I did, let me open this up, is I took two micro switches like this, and these are a little bit larger than the ones I was showing you before. But what has to happen is I don't want this to be a power electrical switch. I don't want it to be like a normally closed, normally open type switch, because a switch like that will not reverse the polarity of the motors. So I could put a switch and a relay, but then I'd have to find a location for the relay. So the push button switch would be great, but it's where do I put a relay to activate the reversing part of the circuit. So what I did is mechanically now I took the same components of a relay, say a double pole, double throw circuit, so that what happens is when the switch is made mechanically, it reverses the polarity by the way these contacts are wired. And they're wired in an X configuration so that when it's not being touched in this position, the motor is in the down or closed. When the switches, both the switches are made, it reverses the polarity and the motor goes out as long as I'm holding it. And then when I let go, it goes back automatically. So the good thing is these type of switches, when they're connected together and there's a plate, I put a plate right here so that both of the circuits, both of the mechanisms here are made simultaneously. So here is the only place that lines up with this switch right here. The only place that lines up is right there. So placing the switches right here, you can kind of see it fits pretty well. It's the the right width and the right height. It doesn't stick out, and it doesn't actually interfere with putting the insides back in. So I'm going to go ahead and take the screw out of this one. Okay, I went ahead and removed the screw in the top portion. So let me go ahead and remove this top here. I took out the screw. This plate is now removable. I can put this aside. Okay, you can see the motor here, and you can also see the tops of the switches. The two switches I added are sitting right there. The push button part is here. So in order that I'm able to push a button on this side, it has to go past the point of where the screw goes in. So in fact, this screw is centered, or it interferes with any kind of push button pin that might go right here to get to the switch on the other side. Okay, so what I needed is a way to get from this side with a push button past the screw and on the way over here to the switch that's located right there. Also, I managed to get the two batteries in there. So basically there's two 3-volt batteries. Here's the one, and I took the paper, it's a plastic coating, it's a the advertisement, off of one battery to kind of see what it actually looked like, and it makes it a tad bit thinner. So the only problem is when you take that protective paper or plastic or decal off of there, it actually puts both of the poles of the battery on the top. And when the protective paper is on there, it actually protects these two poles, or the plus and the minus, from getting too close. Well, in this case, without the protection, the plus and the minus are right here. Okay, so that's the only thing I have to be aware of when I'm using these particular batteries without the protective layer of paper on the outside here. Okay, so when I slide this out, you can kind of see right here there's the addition of the switch. Okay, switches, both of them have been adhered right here. I don't know if you can actually see that. Let me refold. Okay, so you can kind of see right here are the two switches, and they're stacked. And what I did is I put a screw right here for the pivot, so that basically the switch can actually pivot in and out, so I can more or less calibrate it. And then once I found a good spot for the switches, I adhered it right here so they don't move. Okay, and then to operate the switch, I needed to go through the plastic with this little bar right here. Okay, so it's shaped like a horseshoe, and when I push on it, you can kind of see it moves the two switches. Okay, so it's locked in. It goes through two holes right there. Okay, and the screw hole is right here next to it. That's what actually puts it together. Okay, and then when you press on the this portion right here, that actually operates the switch. And then what happens is it reverses the polarity of this motor so that it actually will go up and down, okay, on the little worm gear right here. So the only thing now to contend with is that to get this little setup here back into the body, I had to remove some plastic, because in this location right here, it's solid plastic on the inside. So in order to get this portion right here in here so that it would actually line back up, I had to cut a slot. So basically, I don't know if you can see right there, that light, the hole right there, that's an actual slot. So when I slide this back in like this, it actually goes up the slot. Okay, I slide it in there. I slide it in here all the way to the top, and that little wire actually fits into a slot. Okay, so now what I can do is I added a flat plate. This is a flat plate right here now on this side, right on this side of the hole here. You can kind of sort of see when I press on it, it makes the switches on the inside. So now I have access to the switches on this side of the screw hole, and then what I'm going to do is glue this piece that I made here. It's a black top of a button. It's going to go back in the hole here just like that. Okay, and now when I press on it, it'll actually activate it just like I wanted, so it pushes on the switch. Again, just how I wanted. And once that's glued in, it's still okay because it doesn't affect this piece coming out, because again, that slot is still there. And then when I slide this out, you can kind of see in there, slide out right there, that hole right there, that's made so that that will slide back up in there. So anyway, I hope you get the idea what I'm trying to accomplish here. And also I had to remove some plastic here so that the batteries now will lay, you know, side by side, so it works perfectly. The only thing that did happen is once these two batteries were in place, it can't move much further than this. So this is going to be one of my electrical contacts, is at this end here, and at this end where the lid goes, I'll show you how the other thing I had to contend with is once this is slid in here, okay, just like that, and the batteries go in there just like this, okay, two of them, and that equals 6 volts. This piece had to make clearance for the motor here. Okay, so I had to remove some plastic on this end, and then I had to remove some on that end. I don't know if you can kind of see there, but there's been some removal of plastic there. You can kind of see a little notch, and the reason is once this was placed on here, it had to make clearance for the battery right here. So there'll be one electrical contact on this end and one on the other end, so when the two pieces come together, it makes electrical contact just like that. That squeezes on there, and then again this locks the whole thing in place. So let me go ahead and slide that out, and you kind of see how that works there. So now the little notch is clearance for the battery, and basically it all just pretty much fits in there just like I planned. Hopefully the next thing is adding the 2 micros at the top and the bottom, and we should be good. Now another thing I wanted to show is this top piece is going to have its own little changes made to it, and one of them is, again, this will be, you know, screwed into place, maybe 2 little tiny little screws that hold this, because I'm going to need access to this portion, because what I'm going to add is this. This is a piece of clear or a transparent blue. Okay, so it's not clear, but it's a blue tint to it, and I machined in some lines, some grooves there, and give it some character, and basically it's going to be pressed in here. Okay, so once this is locked into place right there, I'll go ahead and add a backing plate, so of course it doesn't push back in, and possibly an LED on either end. And when I do that, I'm either going to have to cap the end of the plastic rod here so that you don't actually see the LEDs but see the effect of the light from the LEDs. So this will glow, kind of a blue glow when it's active. Okay, so 2 little micro switches, top and bottom, to stop the motor. I've already added my on-off switches. These are my polarity reversing switches. And again, to show you how this part is changed in order for, you know, the batteries and everything to fit in there, this is what it looked like before. So all of that had to, you know, actually be removed so that it can still, you know, fit onto the body and do what it's supposed to do. So there we go. So keep in touch and see what I come up with next. And again, the 2 switches on either end, and then I go ahead and put the plate back on it and figure out some kind of a LED system here for the top.